Hi, and welcome to Watch Me with Emily Galindo, where we are proving them wrong one success story at a time. Today's episode is Watch Me and my guests talk about starting over. Now, starting over is something that every human being at some point in time in their life gets to do. Starting over, whether that is life forced you to do it and you were potentially caught off guard, maybe lost a job, lost a relationship, or or a possible death in the family, or you lost a spouse, but it has forced you to start over. Or potentially you feel like you are stuck in a job that you hate, or stuck in a relationship and thinking this is going to be my life forever. You get to choose to start over if you want to. And that is on both occasions, whether life knocked you into that or you get to choose it powerfully to step into that, we get to start over. And today's guest is somebody that I respect greatly, and is somebody who is incredibly well versed in starting over and has been a living example of how to do it gracefully. She is, an accomplished civil rights attorney, graduating magna cum laude from law school at the age of 40, been sober on a sobriety journey for 38 years, has served 20 years in the military, and knows everything there is at every single one of those moments starting over in a new life. And more importantly than that, she's my mom. So today we're going to welcome Terri Sloyer. And we're already both in tears. Thanks for coming on my podcast, Mom.
Well, thanks for having me.
Why are you so emotional?
Just to hear all of that, and coming from you, having lived most of it with me, it's just a little emotional.
It's a lot when you hear it all, your whole life wrapped up in just a few words, yeah?
Yeah.
And I missed out quite a lot.
Well, no. Yeah, it's just a lot. I'm 64 years old, so there's been a lot, right?
Yeah.
You're almost... Can I say?
We're about being radical transparency on the Watch Me.
So you're almost 40 years old. So
yeah. As on the way here, actually, I was trying to do your bio in my head as we were driving the streets of Houston, trying to get down here. And you went back to college when I was in junior high, and I remember thinking about how old you were to be going back to college. And as I was asking you on the way here, you were like, I was 36 years old. And I'm like, I'm older than that. And so you weren't quite as old as I thought you were. But to be 40 years old, or almost 40, you said you had graduated law school the same year I graduated from high school.
That's exactly right. And I was 40 when I started law school.
So there you go. So is it too late to start over?
Well, as it turns out, never, right? Never. I think about, I really love what you said in the beginning about it. It can be a choice too, right? Yeah. Yes, there have been things in my life that have pulled the rug out from under me, and I've started over. And there have been times in my life that I'm like, this isn't working. Yeah. This isn't working. This is not working. And we're going to do something different. Yeah. And as you know, when you were little, the first decision that I made was to divorce my family of origin. And that was a huge moment in my life that has been a wonderful, I know that's probably hard for some people to hear, but for me, it was absolutely, for Dad and I, it was absolutely the best thing we could have done, so that we could grow, so that we could start over and grow our family and create our core values and create our little traditions in our family. And it was absolutely the right thing for us to do.
I purposely used a word in the opening that you get to start over. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's really interesting coming out of my mouth given the year I've had. But have you found that every single time you have started over, that life has just gotten better from making those choices?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, before we did this, I was thinking about my own journey and how it sort of, in my mind, goes in 3 different phases. Like, I feel like there was a spiritual journey that led to a mental health journey that led to now a physical journey. So and each one of those, I obviously had some decisions to make, like getting sober. That was a choice. That was 36 years ago. That was absolutely the right choice to make, that has made my life. We used to say in the program that there was a guy when I very first got clean and sober that would say, "Hi, my name's blah, 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 and I'm grateful to be an alcoholic." And it used to make me so angry when I was first clean and sober. So angry that I, at one point, thought I was going to talk to the chair of the meeting and say, "Would you please ask him not to say that anymore?" Because it was, And I can tell you, 36 years of sobriety, the best thing that ever happened, one of the best things that ever happened to me was to be an alcoholic. In recovery, right? You choose to recover. And I choose that every day. That's a choice of starting over every single day. I mean, people go, "Oh, wow, you're 36 years clean and sober." No, as it turns out, I'm sober for today. It happens to add up to 36 years, but if they would have told me the first day I walked into AA that, "Terri, you're going to be sober 36 years, I say this all the time, I would have immediately walked out and drank. There was no way. And to this very day, I wake up in the morning and I make the decision to start over with my sobriety, and I don't drink today. Today. That's it.
So starting over is not a whole, this is going to be my life forever.
No, in fact, I just said to a friend who called, who's just finished treatment the other day, and I said to him, while today I live my sobriety one day at a time, there was a time it was 15 minutes.
Right.
It's minute to minute. You get to choose about starting over every minute, every day. We had an episode just 2 days ago at our house that I did not have a good day. I was not having a good day, and you've introduced me to this, and it's made all the difference in the world, and that's cold plunging. And you said, "Mom, it was 8:00 at night, and we decided to start over at 8:00 at night."
We went did. Out. You know what? Thank you. Yes, we did.
We went out at 8:00, and we did a 3-minute cold plunge, and completely changed my day.
At 8:00 at night.
At 8:00 at night, but it changed, right? So all we have is this minute, right? Just this minute.
So a lot of the people that I'm hopeful that we get to talk to, that get to hear us, right, on this show, are people who I always want to say that feel stuck, right? I've originally, stuck in their business, stuck in their life. I don't care if you're a server who's like, "I wish I could have a big kid job or a big, an adult job." Or whether it's a drug addict who feels like they have done so much damage in the world that they can't, ever come back from it and make amends to people. Whether it's a business owner who is just, it doesn't work for them, right? Like something in the business is not working, and it doesn't feel good. That's really what it comes down to is, does my life feel good right now? What I'm up to. And if it doesn't, I hope that they're listening to find something to be able to go, okay, I can start over. We can push the reset button today, this minute of this day, and choose something different for my life.
Yes, and I think a lot of people don't want to hear this, but it's the truth. One thing is you have to be radically willing to do some introspection. There is something in your life. I won't say about your life. I'll say about my life. If it wasn't working, I had to go deep inside and say, the one commonality of why this isn't working is me. What is it? What is it, Terri? What are you afraid of? What is your belief system? What is holding you back from doing the thing, whatever the thing is, whether that's applying to go to law school. Like, I wasn't going to go to law school. I was going to get a degree in communications and move on down the road. And I happen to be really blessed along my journey that helped me to make changes. And I think that's instrumental in starting over, is that you surround yourself with people that believe in you and want to help you. And I happen to have an academic advisor that said, "What? You're way too smart for that. You're going to law school." And I'm like, "What?" Yeah, he had me going to an Ivy League law school. I went to a great law school, but I didn't go to an Ivy League law school. But there were things that I didn't even at that point in my own development believe in myself, but I surrounded myself with people that did. Mm-hmm. And I listened to them. So I think the self-reflection, surrounding yourself with people, and then, and this is probably the most difficult, we've talked about this a lot, is taking radical accountability, right? I am at this place in my life stuck. I have created this. I have created this. No one is coming to save me.
Yeah, huge.
No one is coming to save me. I have to do it myself. And what does that look like? So the introspection is I got to get very clear about why am I stuck? Why am I holding myself back?
Right, the age-old adage of if you do the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, right? We can't keep doing
insanity.
that.
That's the definition of sanity.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I'm struggling this right now. I've reached out to a friend. For years, I say I want to write a book.
She said this for at least 15 years.
At least. And I also keep telling myself, but I don't know about what. I don't know. And every time I say I don't know, I'm reinforcing that I'm not going to do it. So I'm taking baby steps. I have a friend that's a publisher, blah, 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 and I'm reaching out to him and blah, blah. But I am stuck. But I am going to make the choice at some point to sit down at a computer or a piece of paper and start. But I still keep looking for someone to tell me, yeah, Terri, write about this. Terri, write about this. And the truth is, I do know what it is. I just haven't been willing to take the risk and be vulnerable enough to sit down and do it. I have more motivation now than I have had in a very long time to do it.
That's, for those of you who don't know what accountability looks like, that's what it sounds like, right? Where you go, who am I? What am I doing? What am I not doing? And then just go and be okay. I mean, it's okay. I'm not berating her for going, yeah, you are holding yourself back and then going, and why aren't you doing it, and pushing you further. But at least we understand that it's not anybody else's fault.
Nope.
I've purchased a book writing subscription last year for Christmas that she wrote, I think, 6 entries into that they did not publish and bound. Like, I have asked to, like, can we put some block scheduling on your calendar to get it done? But accountability, that's what it sounds like.
Well, yeah, because it's a little like getting clean and sober, right? I'm not willing to do it till I'm willing to do it. Like, I got to get to that place. So
right.
Now that I've been diagnosed with ALS and I have a terminal disease, I have a little bit more motivation to leave a legacy behind for my children.
Right. And the question then becomes, do we need something that drastic in order to make us, like, I don't know, having your whole life, like your husband walk out on you in one day and rip your entire family apart? Does it require that level of trauma?
I don't think it requires that. I think that every single day, everyone's at choice about, at the end of the day, going, who was I today? Who did I impact? Or how was I impacted? Or why didn't I do that? Why didn't I pick up the paper today and write the book? It just is, there's a lot of introspection. And it's really hard because there's a lot of noise in the world. There's a lot of noise.
Distractions, yeah.
Yeah, just constant, right? I'm guilty. TikTok, right? Or whatever it is.
You do an excessive amount of TikToking.
I do a lot of it TikToking, but I love to watch people decorate cakes. It's a great distraction. Or other
from writing a book.
Yeah. So I
we're
think
listening and we're not judging right now, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a TikTok thing.
Yeah.
Okay. We listen and we don't judge.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it does require the introspection. And I think, I had said that to you in the car the other day about nobody wants to take responsibility for their life. Not nobody. I'm surrounded by people who do on a daily basis, but I don't think...
It's hard.
It is extremely hard, but I don't think that's the general sense that most people live their life with. I think... Do you think that people are just like driving to their 9-to-5 job, miserable in traffic in Houston, getting there, clocking in, clocking out, driving home, distracting, going to bed, rinse and repeat? That's what Courtney talked about last week.
Yeah.
Do they even register that doesn't work for them? Or do you think they're perfectly fine with it?
I think that there's some people that they are so checked out that it works for them and they don't see another way. It can be, I think, for the most part. I don't want to use the word painful because I've gotten really clear, especially in a physical journey, the difference between pain and being uncomfortable.
Right.
You have to be willing to be uncomfortable. And we are a culture that's why we eat, that's why we drink, that's why we watch TV. We're always distracting ourselves because introspection is uncomfortable.
What do you think is uncomfortable about it?
Well, being accountable, because then you have to be accountable, right? Like, when I say radical accountability, I mean, that doesn't mean that, right? So in my life, my parents were horrible human beings. Well, they weren't horrible human beings. They just didn't know how to parent, right? Now, I can spend the whole rest of my life telling you why I'm not this, and this because of my parents. I, at some point, have to say, and I said this, my parents got the first 18 years of my life. They will not get the rest of my life. Now, that doesn't let them off the hook for what they did. They did what they did. They did the best that they could. I've come to some level of acceptance about that. But I want to be the captain of the ship of the rest of my life, right? So that requires me to take accountability for that. I could blame them forever and have a miserable life forever and say, well, I had a terrible childhood. But I have so many things in my life to be joyful and wonderful, right? I married a man that I've been married to for 45 years, the love of my life. I have 3 amazing children. Like, we live in a beautiful home. I've had
an amazing granddaughter.
I have an amazing grandchildren. I have a daughter and a grandson that I love dearly. And my granddaughter got my sense of humor, which makes me so happy. And these are all choices that we've made and reality that we've created. And when it hasn't worked, and there have been times in our lives where we've struggled, right?
Yeah.
We all back up and take accountability for that too. And go, okay, well, that didn't really work. But I'm really committed to you. I'm really committed to loving you and being in a relationship with you. So how can we work through this? What can we do? Mm-hmm. And I think at some level I modeled that for you. And so when you were struggling, at some point it brought you back to center.
Right. Yeah. I have found as I've gotten older and I've gotten relationships that are more and more vulnerable, where we can talk about our childhoods and things like that and how we were raised, and as we're raising our own children now, that I did not have a normal upbringing. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's unfortunate that most people did not have this experience that you guys fought so valiantly for. I mean, like, divorced your families, moved away across the country, never went back. And I mean, never. I've met my grandparents on my dad's side 2 times. Right? They made a decision. This was not healthy, did not want us to be a part of it. And we lived an amazing life. And was it perfect? No. But the modeling of relationships and whatnot, and how to repair and how to take accountability and be authentic and have what some people view us as having no boundaries, right, in terms of being open with each other.
Well, at the end of the day, I think we spend a lot of time asking, does it work for us? Like, I don't really care what other people think about our relationships and our family and our dynamic. The question within our family is, does it work? Does it work? For the most part, it works. Right? I mean, it doesn't mean that it's perfect. It doesn't mean that it's always unicorn and rainbows, but I try really hard. But we're all adult human beings doing the best that we can. And you struggle with your sister, and your brother struggles with you, and all
He does? Can we talk about that? No. We'll talk about that on the way home.
But you know what I'm saying? I just want people to understand that it's a choice. We have chosen to be this way, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I think that that's part of the accountability piece, is that I have chosen to be this way. I mean, at least I'll speak for me. I have chosen to show up in the world this way on purpose. That hasn't always been the case, right? As with growth, personal development, growth journey is when you start to own a lot of that, and eventually all of that, saying, this is my life, this is how I want to show up. Most people, I don't think, do that. I think we just go through the motions of it all. But I don't know, at least the information that I'm taking in from the world around me is that at some point there's got to be some sort of little nugget or itch or earworm that gets dropped into somebody's to wake people up to go, this isn't working. I think I can speak just because it's on top of my mind about, like, a lot of people who are in relationships with people that they know it isn't working. And we're trying to all the things, and in the back of your head, this is not working. This is not working.
Yeah, you just wish that people could act on that. But they've got to get in touch with why am I willing to stay in this relationship, right? There's something that's motivating you to stay if it isn't fulfilling. Like, it's a, I
And
kind
then own the answer, right? Like, is it for the kids? Is it for the money? Is it for the whatever?
I don't want to be alone.
I don't want to
I
be
just
alone.
don't want to be alone.
Then you just got to go, okay, well, that's why I'm staying. And then we get to clear out all of this is unicorns and rainbows and a perfect relationship. I'm staying to fulfill this
and I
one
think
thing.
you also have to ask, what am I expecting if it's in a partnership? We're using that example. Who am I being in the relationship, right? Like, I'm not feeling fulfilled. Well, who am I fulfilled myself in and of myself, or am I expecting that fulfillment to come from my partner? Like, I think there's a lot of that.
Right.
That, again, it goes to the self-reflection. Well, who am I being in this relationship? Never taking off the table what the other person's doing. They are doing, but can I accept them for who they are and who they're not? And can I accept myself for who I am and who I'm not? Like, what is the expectation in the job, in the relationship, or whatever it is? And if it isn't working, you've got to get honest about what part you're playing in that.
Right. One of my favorite questions to ask when we talk about whether it's a relationship, your job, your whatever, if things were to stay exactly the same as they are today, would you want to live the rest of your life this way?
100%.
That's the only question you have to ask to go, I need to either start over or do something, right? To start looking or asking questions. But if not a single thing, he doesn't change, she doesn't change, you don't ever get a new boss, the commute's never going to change, everything stays exactly the same as it is this how you want to live your life for the rest of your life?
Yeah, that's a good question to ask yourself.
And if the answer is no, then we need to start over.
We do.
And so why do you think it's so hard to do that?
It's scary.
What's so scary about it?
Because here's the thing. Whether it's getting clean and sober, whether it's starting on a physical journey, whether it's starting on a spiritual journey, we know what we're experiencing right now. We don't know what the future holds.
But I know that I don't like it right now.
I understand, but you know it, right? There's something that's sort of comforting about the knowing. The future is unknown. And the truth is, there is no future, right? It is right here, right now, this second, what we're doing. Like,
right.
If you're really present to that, right? The pain of I'm not comfortable here is, the part of the pain is because I had an expectation of what it was supposed to be, and it's not that.
Yep.
And so now I'm looking and going, okay, well, it's not meeting my expectation, but if I step out of it, is there anything better? Like, right? I don't know. For me, it's just about being happy in the moment and in the now. You got to get clear about the now, because that's all there is. Eckhart Tolle wrote a book on this. Everyone should read it.
The Power of Now.
Absolutely, yes. 100%.
And if enough people read it, we'll have a new earth.
We will have a new earth, and that's called an awakening.
To your Eckhart Tolle purpose. Also wrote a book called A New Earth.
Yeah.
But yes, well, then this begs the question, do I need to start over, or do I just need to change my expectations about my current situation?
I don't know. Those are all questions that you have to ask yourself, right? Again, we're back to self-reflection.
But we're here to talk about starting over. Because let's say I've self-reflected, yep. I don't like this, I want to do something about it, and now it's scary, and I have to start over.
So now you take the action even though it's scary. That's called being brave.
Okay. Doing something you don't want to do.
Yeah. Do you think that when I walked in I wasn't terrified the first time I walked into an AA meeting?
Were you?
I was terrified.
Of what?
Not having no idea what I had a lot of shame about being an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. I got over that pretty quick, because if you go to enough AA meetings, there's a lot of people like you. So you're like, oh, I found my tribe.
Or you're going, well, my life's not that bad, right?
Well, there's that.
There's an ego boost there.
Yeah. It was I really, truly felt for the first time I was home. And to this day, after all these years, I occasionally will drop into an AA meeting, and I sit there and I go, oh my God, this is where I belong. It doesn't matter. I mean, there could be somebody there that's been clean and sober 24 hours. There could be somebody there that's been clean and sober 50 years. It doesn't matter. When I'm with those people, that's where I belong. I feel completely at home in an AA meeting.
That's amazing. And then what about when we retired from the military? Do you consider that a starting over?
For sure. It was a bigger starting over for your father than it was for me, and it was hard.
Right, because I talked to Michael Parker the other day, or a few weeks back, and we kind of talked about that, getting reacclimating, if you will.
Yeah, because so much of that, and it's purposeful, being in the military is an identity.
Right.
And your father was a high-ranking enlisted. He wasn't an officer, but he was high-ranking enlisted. He was a recruiter, so he was selling it. He was pouring the Kool-Aid.
When I tell people our story, I'm like, the only thing harder to sell than the military is Jesus. And so, I mean, like,
Dad's done.
Bless those missionaries and all of that, but then you got to enlist people to sell their bodies.
He loved it, and he was good at it. His opening line when you came in his office to be recruited is, "Why do you want to join the war?" And they're like, "I don't want to join the war. I want to join so I can get my college paid for." And he goes, "And if we go to war, you're going to war.
Pay for it." Yeah,
right. So, so taking off that uniform was a really difficult thing for your dad. It was difficult for all of us. That was right. We lived in base housing. It is a way of life, and so there was a big transition. Luckily, your father had very marketable sales skills, and so he sort of seamlessly went into outside sales and has done that for 25 years after he did 20 years in the military.
Right. I got those skills from him.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. All the kids did.
Yeah.
All the kids did.
And then, so then you transitioned there, and then somewhere in there, I mean, I would say shortly after Dad got out of the military, you started over, and you guys both decided, he didn't start over immediately. The part of his starting over was you guys said, to school. We're going back to college.
Yeah, because Dad got, at that time, there was a big downsizing in the military. He was on a special contract to be a recruiter, and he got downsized. And there was a program called Job Training Partnership Act for people that had been downsized that would pay for school. So I said, well, if you're going back to school, I've wanted to go back to school for a long time. So we just decided to use all resources that were available to us and take our little children and go to college. And that's what we did. For 4 years, we were state, and then towards the end of that, I was encouraged to go to law school, and Dad said, you know what, you followed me wherever I wanted to go all these years in the military, you pick where you want to go to law school. So we went to Gonzaga and we moved to Spokane.
So we moved again.
We did move again to Spokane to go to Gonzaga so I could go to law school.
And was that scary?
That was terrifying.
Was it scarier to go to undergrad, or was it scarier to go to law school?
It was way scarier to go to law school.
Why?
Way scarier. Well, because there's such a, what do I want to call it? Sort of an initiation to even get into law school, right? You have to take the LSAT. You got to apply to all these schools and get accepted. I was accepted at 8 of the 10 schools I applied to. And now you got to decide which one to go to. And so it felt very, I think the language we use for it today is imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I really suffered from that. And in fact, the first semester of law school, they give you a phone number to call to get your grades and it's at Christmas time after you've taken your finals.
I feel like I remember you doing this.
And I called like 4 times because I'm like, they would give me my grades and I was in the top of my class, I was in the top of my class. I'm like,
it's factually accurate. There's no meaning.
But I'm like, that can't be true. That can't be right. I called again. I go, well, I guess that is right. That's what I did. And from that day forward, I made a decision not to check my grades for the rest of law school because it was making me crazy. Because everybody's talking about who's at the top of the class and what was your grades and what did you get in this class and what did you get in that class. And I'm like, I can't do this.
Pedals over podiums.
Yeah, for sure. I just got into, 100%. I just said, no, I'm going to put my head down and do this. And I got a really good internship that I wanted so desperately at the Center for Justice in Spokane at the time, doing civil rights work and representing all sorts of, anyway, it was a great organization. And when I went to get my gown to graduate, they said, oh, and you get honor cords. I said, what do you mean? Well, I graduated magna cum laude, so it really worked not to check my grades. It saved my mental health. And I was working a lot at the center, which I really wanted to do. After you've completed 60 hours of law school, then you can practice with a supervising attorney. So I had some great cases and got to argue before the Court of Appeals there in Spokane and as an intern, and it was really great. So
How many times did you consider not applying for law school?
I don't think I did. I think once I got on that train and I had enough people around me that were pushing me to do it, that it didn't occur to me not the applying and all of that was fine. It was the decision about where I was going to go that was concerning, because I was uprooting the whole family again to go where I wanted to go. And then it didn't get scary until like the first day of law school. And then I was like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. I drove my remember my little white hoopty I had, my little Honda Civic that I drove, or Honda Accord, and I drove it to law school, and I'm sitting in my first class at law school, and I get a note that says to please come out, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? It was literally the first few hours of law school. I was so nervous when I went to law school that day. I did not put my car in park, and my little car had gone down into a little ravine thing, and I had to go get it out. That's how scared I was to go to law school that day. So
But you did it.
I did. I got my little car out of the ravine, and I finished law school.
Did you stay for all your classes and do all the things?
Oh yeah. I went back in. Oh yes, I did.
You just left it down there and was
No,
like,
no,
I'll
I
come
moved,
get it later.
I moved it out, and then
okay.
I went back in the building and finished law school.
And then you do a life of service in terms of the law?
I did. I practiced for 10 years, and after that I said, this is not for me.
For anybody in the mentally imbalanced department, law is not for you, let's just say. Those people need therapy because they need therapists. They don't need lawyers. That's what they need.
And there were a lot of people that said that to me before I started practicing, and I just was determined I was going to do it. I will say this. I thought that my dream was to be a litigator, and that's what I started out doing. And at the age of 40 and having a family, to be a good litigator, you're working 90 hours a week. There's just no way around it. You cannot practice and be a litigator. And even though I worked at a great organization that we had a Zendo where we could go and meditate and all the things supported, after 7 years of that, and I was representing prisoners in the prison system, and I was representing clients that had been killed by the police, I said, I can't do this anymore. I'll practice family law. Well, that was a horrible mistake. And in 3 years of family law, I said, no more. I'm not doing this anymore. Not doing it. So we moved to Texas, and I started working at estate planning firms as a firm manager and never got my license to practice in Texas.
But you guys you followed me to Houston.
We did. After you came to Houston.
I did my first move, left Spokane and came here, and then you guys followed me.
Yep.
Wouldn't you consider that another start over?
For sure. A big start over. When I gave up the law firm, and Dad was unemployed at the time, and part of the reason that we came to Houston was that he found a job here.
Yep.
And so we said, well, Emily's there. You got a job in Houston. I'm done practicing law. And we came here.
And how do you, and on, when you, for those people who are potentially like going, right, I just invested all of this money in my education. I just spent the last 15 years of my life studying my ass off and working 90-hour weeks, and I did it all for naught, only to like look up and go, I don't ever get to see my kids. I am stressed at work. It's not fulfilling. This is not working for me. And then to go, and I'm going to go, and I'm not going to do anything with this ever again. I'm not going to do law anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, well.
Are you happier now?
Oh, for sure. Oh, my God. Where was I the other day that I heard a fax machine, and I said, oh, my God. Friday afternoons when my fax machine would ring, that was before we did lots of emailing in the law.
E-filing and stuff.
Yeah. It would be a pleading that opposing counsel had filed, and they waited till the 11th hour. So that meant you had to work all weekend to write a response. And I was so stressed out all the time. It wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. But I don't want to say it was all for naught, because I will say this. What I did learn from that experience was I love the law. I love that for now we're a country ruled by the rule of law, and I I love the academics of the law. And if I had my life to live over again, and if I would have listened to the judges at the time, I should have been an appellate attorney, because I wouldn't have really had clients. You do have clients, but you're writing appellate briefs, which is a very academic process, and then giving oral arguments to judges, which means you don't just stand up there and argue. They ask you lots and lots of questions. And I had the experience in law school of getting to do that in moot court and did very well at it. And so I look back and thought, man, that's what I should have done. If I would have listened to people that were talking to me, I should have been an appellate attorney, but I was bound and determined I was going to be a litigator.
Change the world.
I was going to change the world, and within a few years I went, if this was going to change the world, specifically in the area of prison reform, it would have been done by now. Prisons have been sued into oblivion, and it would have made a difference, and it wasn't making a difference. Was I making a difference in individual people's lives? Yes. I love my clients. I love the guys that I represented, and one of them got out of prison, and we got to have a meal together, and that was very gratifying. So there were people along the way, and even in family law, as abysmal as that was, I still have a little girl that was friends with your sister that had a baby very, very early in life, and she's now a teenager, and she co-parents with dad based on a lot of the coaching that I did about co-parenting. And so there's little things I can point to that that made a difference in individual people's lives that I wouldn't change.
So I would like to challenge you to consider that as you're about to go embark on writing this book, right? As you're starting over and going to do that, and we've talked about this, that is changing the world. That did we make some brand new law? Did we add an amendment to the Constitution? No, Terry, we didn't. However, I can probably count over 100 people that are going to say that you made a direct impact. A lot of them my ex-boyfriends on you know what I mean, in their lives, that dramatically changed the trajectory. You don't understand the ripple effect. This friend and how she raised her daughter, and the fact that her daughter now has 2 functioning co-parents in the world is going to dramatically change the impact that she will have in the world on everybody else that she encounters.
Yeah,
that's heavy. That's just one example.
I think I forget, right? I'm really good. This has nothing to do with starting over. Maybe it does. I'm super good at telling you the things that I did wrong, as opposed to thinking about the things that made a difference, right? I just got a call this week from a man who just got out of treatment for the 3rd time, who called to tell me, he was a soccer dad back in the day when your sister was playing soccer, and he just said, I just need you to know that I love you, and you've made a huge difference in my life, and you were always there for me. And I have another friend here that we went to the same gym together, and then he went off and started his own gym, and I said, I love you, but I'm going to stay at this gym. And he said, but I want to stay in contact with you. And he's like my brother now. Mm-hmm. These are people that I just forget. I forget
what an impact you can make.
Yeah, well, and you also think, or I think, it's not just me. Other people are out being people and impacting people in a positive way. Why is anything I do or say special, right? It's not.
It is.
Apparently it is.
It is. I think that when people come into the, as people are, part of the problem is that we think that everybody operates from the same perspective that we do, and we don't. They don't. Right? That all people are honest because you're honest, or all people genuinely want deep, meaningful connections, but that's not true, and that's what we want, right? Or that's what you want. So not everybody operates and goes through the world on a day-to-day basis thinking and being completely authentic, completely caring, and wanting, and has the ability to connect with individuals at that level. And there are people who see, and they want it, they just don't know how to get it, or they want to be that way in the world, and they don't know how to get it.
I think that's the part of the starting over thing, is the who am I? Who am I right now? And who do I want to be? Right? It's really hard. It is hard to take a real deep look at yourself.
You seem to do it with ease because you just gave me a whole list of all that you just said. I'm perfectly fine with telling you all the things I did wrong. That's called accountability and looking at yourself and being self-reflective.
Yeah, but it's not easy. I don't think it's easy. I don't think it comes easy in our culture. I think culturally, maybe we don't I don't know that we hold people up, or it's not seen as an asset to be accountable. I feel like there's a lot of blaming in the world. And again, it's not to say that there aren't horrible things going on in the world, but I can't do anything about a lot of them.
Right.
But who can I be in the world? Who can I be with when I come into contact with with different people in the world? Even if it's the lady that's checking me out at the grocery store, like,
I love to use people's name tags.
Talk to them by their name. They love that.
It's a super simple thing, but people have name tags for a reason, and they are human beings. And when you check out and you say, "Jim, have a great day," it makes the biggest impact. And
it's a complete acknowledgement that person exists.
100%.
Everything who they are.
100%. And I heard, and I wish I could remember who it was, but I want to say it was the Happiness Lab podcast that talks about the energy exchange in every single interaction that you have, and you either leave a positive or a negative in terms of, because energy exists, right? It's all data driven stuff, but that you either leave a positive, neutral, or negative experience on people at every single interaction. And and there's a show, Black Mirror, I told you about. They're doing this stuff in I don't know, in Korea, but they're like they would provide you with like a credit, like a review, 5-star review on interactions with you.
Oh yeah.
I don't think this is a wrong thing.
I don't know. That would really stress me out. That's a little like getting grades. I don't want to be judged. I just want to be me.
It would absolutely change people's behavior and the way they treat others.
Maybe.
But then it wouldn't be authentic.
Well, right. And are there people that have unrealistic expectations that we're all human and we're all doing the best that we can, right?
Okay, fair.
Like, I've had negative interactions with people before and been upset and then gone, okay, wait a minute. I don't know how their day started. I don't know their story. I don't know what their parents were like. Really? I don't know. I just don't know.
See, this is what happens when you have a 20-year head start on the healing journey over me.
That you have to stop and really realize
everybody's out here
doing the best they can.
I like to say that.
But they can start over.
They need to start over, because I can say that they are out here I don't think that everybody is out here doing the best they can. I think that's crap. I really do. I think that there are some people, and we surround ourselves with a lot of people that are like that, and so we think everybody is. But I'm telling you that is not. If people are being super honest with themselves, they're not doing the best they can. They know that they spend too much time on TikTok or Netflix or.
Here's the thing that I think helps me there's a book that we read called Task, and and TASK stands for different things, and one of the A is assume positive intent.
I've heard this before. I'm going to be honest, being that you have 20 years advanced healing on me. I find that gets me hurt more often than not. I assume positive intent. You would here's a good example in business, right? That you think that your general manager is doing all the things that they're supposed to be doing, only to come to find out in 5 years they've been taking money from you over the years. Now, am I just being cynical and life has happened I don't know. I'm asking you, Sage.
I don't know. I think that for me, as painful as that is to have that experience, would I assume positive intent and I trusted that individual, that the pain that they're suffering that now I know is worse than the hurt that they perpetrated on me. I could choose to say they're the ones that are going to suffer from that, not me, really, at the end of the day. Look, I've had this happen in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm choosing to believe that individual who really harmed me, really, really harmed me, if I told the story, and I'm not going to, they're in way more pain than I am. I was able to start over. I was able to heal. I was able to forgive. I'm able to move on in my life, and I have a lot of peace in my life. That person, I don't know what they did, but what they did to me would tell me if they didn't get, and I think that they're probably suffering. Here's the other thing about this that's going to be a little, I probably shouldn't say this, but it's a little woo-woo. It's a little woo-woo, but you can cut it out.
I can do whatever.
Yeah, you can cut it out. Is I chose this life.
Oh, yes. You're on that one right now.
I am. I chose this life. I chose every single relationship and every single thing that I've experienced, and I did it on purpose so that I could spiritually grow and learn.
Why do you think that's such a hard pill for us to swallow?
I'm gonna sound like a broken record because it makes me 100% accountable. I can't blame anyone, right? I've been diagnosed with ALS. I believe that I contracted to have this experience. There's something I'm learning. There's something that the people that are in my life chose to be in my life, I believe as well. So they're having this experience too. We're all learning something. And the only way I can learn it is by having this experience.
Sounds a lot like surrender in the good way, not the negative way.
Well, and acceptance.
Yep.
Just radical acceptance of what is.
Okay. So what have we started over now? Because we have a new life now, right?
So the starting over for me at this very moment is learning to ask for help.
Okay.
I obviously have been very what do I want to say? Headstrong, stubborn, independent. I don't know. All the things that you are that are making you successful. And part of it isn't a good thing, right? We live in a culture that I think applauds I don't know the word I want to use, independence in a way that we don't applaud asking for help.
Right. I did it all by myself.
Right. Asking for help is a sign of weakness, I think.
Did you know that radical independence is actually a trauma response?
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Right. Because your needs weren't met, so you had to learn to do it by yourself.
You couldn't trust anybody to do them for you. Yeah. So you have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a really good conversation with your brother when I was home in Spokane just a few weeks ago about part of the difficulty of asking for help as a parent is I am your parent and I am here for you to take care of you.
But I am an able-bodied adult.
I know, but I always wanted to be available to you guys physically to get out and do things and all of that, and that it feels selfish to ask for help, to ask my children to help me. And there's lots of information out there about your children shouldn't be your caregivers, they should be allowed to be your children and all of that jazz. So this is all new. This is a new starting over. This is a new learning. This is a new way of being in the world.
See, this goes back to, I want you to know that my lived experience of being your child is radically different than my peers and the people I know in the world and how they have experienced parentage. Because I have a friend who's got an ailing parent, and the discussion was, you will come get me, you will come take me to my appointments, you will do all of the things that I asked you to do because I am your parent, and you
owe me.
You owe me.
You don't owe me anything. I brought you into this world. Dad and I were really committed to teaching you to be independent and self-sufficient. And there was a few years ago that we did say to each other, we've done it. If anything happens to us and we're plucked off the planet tonight, our children will be fine.
Yes.
That's a great feeling. But I don't feel like you owe me anything.
When Dad and I went to the movies last weekend, we were walking out and I had linked arms with him and I said, I was just looking in the mirror. I just wanted you to know, did a pretty good job.
He loved that, I'm sure.
He's like, I want you to know his response was, well, I didn't do it by myself.
Oh, bless his heart.
Bless
his heart. That's very sweet.
So I want to leave our listeners with their, you can start over at any moment of the day, at any time in life, no matter what. It just requires, I want you to reiterate. What does it require for
It
us
requires, first of all, I think doing well, funny enough, the thing that comes to mind is the 4-step in AA, and that is doing fearless and searching moral inventory.
Right.
Who am I? What is working? What is not working? And what is the exact nature of my defects? And what am I going to do about that? Right. I think it's kind of perfect that we're talking about starting over, because this is the time of year, right? People are coming into January.
Yeah, I hadn't even considered that.
You don't have to wait till January. You do not have to wait till January 1st. Today.
Because that's an extra 3 weeks of suffering that you didn't have to do if you didn't want to.
Right. So I would say searching and fearless moral inventory, surround yourself with people that will lift you up, don't bring you down. And if you're in that circle about people bringing you down, then that's part of your searching fearless moral inventory of like, I got to find people, right, that are going to lift me up. And then get clear about a plan of action about what am I going to do if you decide you want to change it. But I think you got to get really hardcore about who you are.
And that's a good 4-step list, but I mean step number 1 is owning how you got here and what is working and what is not.
Correct.
Like, again, if you could just ask yourself, if your life was going to be like this for the rest of your life, are you cool with that? And if you're cool with it, carry on, soldier, because this work is not for the lighthearted.
Exactly.
Right. So if it's not working, okay, check, this isn't working for me. And I want to bring this kind of more to like business. Like, if you can't keep employees, that's a you problem. If you can't grow, that's a you problem. If you have terrible customers that are mean to you all the time, my home service people, like this is you.
You know,
right?
I'm going to give you a quick
I know
business
that sounds hard, but that's it.
A quick business example that I did when I was in practice, when I was in law school. I had an employee, and this was a me thing. She was drinking on the job. She was not showing up on time. And I just thought I could love her into being a better person. That's what I wanted to do.
I inherited this too.
I really, really, really wanted, okay, what can I do to accommodate you? What can you come in at 9:30? If I move your time to come in at 9:30, we'd be here at 9:30. I did that. She come at 10. Right? Anyway, the point was, it was a me problem. I wanted it more for her than she wanted it for herself. I eventually had to terminate her, which was very painful, but my business suffered along the way as a result of my unwillingness to, because I was so convinced I could coach her into. And so some of that is like, if things aren't working with your employees, you might want to take a look at you and how you're doing it. And it may not be a good, that's how I finally left it with her. I'm like, I just don't think this is a good fit for you. It's not, I've done this. I let her go get treatment and come back, and she drank again. Like, right? It's not a good fit. I don't know if it's not a good fit because of the timing or what have you, but it's not a good fit.
Right. And that's, like the simple way, but in terms of like the they could be your interview process, your training process, your coaching process, your middle management. Like, and if you're at the top of the food chain, all roads lead to Rome. As my dear friend Gina says, leadership. Like, just roll it up, because if you're at the top, it's your fault. It's your problem, and you have the power to fix it. And if it's in your life, if it's working or not working, and then I think it's hard because when you make life choices, like moving and where to go to school, right? It impacts a lot of other people than just you. Staying in a relationship or not, right? And that's heavy. That is hard to know that your choices are going to make an impact on on people's lives that are going to impact them for the rest of their lives. At some point, at least in my case, I said, they'll deal with that in therapy like I am. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta, at some point, the pain has to outweigh
the fear of the future.
Yeah.
The fear of the future. The only thing I would challenge you on is the leadership and it's my fault. Fault is a blaming word.
Fair. Yep.
I would say I'm going to take accountability for it.
Yeah.
That allows me to do some searching about who am I being in the relationship. It's not a blame issue.
Right.
Because, it's too easy to go, well, they're the ones not showing up on time. They're the ones not doing this. They're the ones not doing that. As opposed to, that may all be true, but who am I being in it?
Right. All of that is true, and how am I allowing it?
Correct.
What have I done to address it? And if you've done all the things and you're doing, then it's just not a good fit if you want.
Correct.
But you're right.
No blaming.
No
just
blaming.
Taking
it's not my fault. But
just taking accountability is a very different way of being.
Right. And again, it doesn't have to stay that way for forever. You can walk into your company tomorrow and say, here are the new policies, and here's how we're going to hold each other accountable in these policies. Now, the key is just like parenting a child. If you don't do this, then this is what happens. You have to follow through with those consequences or those results of those actions and be consistent in it. And that is where most of it falls apart.
It's hard.
We can come in January 1st, put in the new policy, say the new thing, start the new school, whatever. But yes, start the new workout program. But yes, the consistency. So how does one stay consistent then? Maybe I should get Katie on and we'll talk about that because that's her.
She is consistent.
That discipline and consistencies.
I learned some of that from her. We didn't talk about my running. I did do that.
Oh, yes, you did. You ran 100 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a physical section, right? Starting.
Yeah.
I decided I'd been very unhealthy and overweight and started over and went to CrossFit at 56 years old.
Yeah, you did.
And then at 60 ran 100 miles in 2 days and did all the things.
Yeah, you did.
You just here's the deal, people. You just really make up your mind to do it and then you do it. You just make up your mind to do it and then do it.
It's really that simple.
It really is. It's not easy.
But yeah, no, it's not easy.
Because I think too often, like when we talk about that, like people go, you did what? You ran 100 miles. Yes, and in October of that year, that was in the end of December, the very end of December into January 1, I ran that 100 miles. But in October, I started running 30 miles a week.
Right.
I didn't just wake up on December 29th and decide I was going to run. It was the pedals, not the podium, right? Every day, looking at the calendar. How many miles am I running today? How many miles, right? And then I did it, and then I did it. And then it was the 29th of December, and we did it.
Yes, for the listeners, the pedals, not the podium is what we listened to this morning. Steve Bartlett's podcast talks about Sir David, who runs the UK or
Manchester United.
He runs Manchester United, but he also, in this particular case, he was the
Tour de France,
the cyclist team for Great Britain, and they hadn't won an Olympic medal in 100 years, and they got Sir David involved and got their mindset shifted to understanding that we're not chasing the medals or the podium or anything like that. We are committed to the process of what you're focused on is the pedal, that stroke, that run, that breath.
Living in the now.
That breath. What am I doing today, right this minute, that's going to get me closer? And all of those moments will add up to standing on the podium. So he calls it pedals, not the podium.
Yep.
And so with that is where we're going to leave you today in terms of living in the now and what are you doing today to be the best version of yourself to get you closer to whatever it is that you've decided to start over.
Yep.
I always like to make it bite-sized pieces within 1 week, or what can you do today that it's just picking up the phone. It's not a big drastic thing. You don't have to pull the application up right now and fill it out or whatever your thing is. It's making one call, doing one Google search, read one article to get you closer to understanding what your possibilities are. Having that conversation to just be curious. If I did this, good old Ted Lasso, if I did this, what would that look like? What would that take? Would you be there to support me? Just being curious about what that future could look like is one step in the right direction of changing your life. Starting over. It really can do that.
It's simple but not easy.
It's simple, not easy. Thank you for coming to be on our show today.
Thanks for having me.
I loved it. And you guys, thank you so much. We would love for you to tune in next week and continue to live the best version of your life. Thank you so much. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Have a great day. Live the best life.